how to communicate with impact as a coach. This is what we will cover today, as many of you missed the class yesterday and requested recording. So I've decided to create this capsule for you. So let's get started. The first question is, as a coach, when do I need to communicate with impact? The short answer is all the time, right? But I have decided to split that into two sections. So today we will cover two major parts. The first one is, how do I need to communicate with impact during a coaching conversation as a coach? And the second part is, when do I need to communicate with impact to share my ideas and engage my audience? If I pitch my clients, for instance, or if I deliver a workshop or a webinar. So just a reminder, words create worlds. So we have this responsibility as coaches, but also as humans, to be pretty careful with the words we use. And they can have a great power. So we need to choose those words wisely to improve our communication. So let's get started. Let's focus first on how to communicate with impact during a coaching conversation. Some people asked me yesterday, okay, what do you mean by communication? Of course, it's about active listening, but today we will focus mainly on your communication style as a message you deliver. So we did a breakout room. So if you want, you can just pause now and try to think about 5 tips you would share with someone to help this person improve their communication style. And let me share mine. The first tip to communicate with impact in a coaching conversation is to make sure that you know what your coach's communication style is. Okay, I love to use a DISC for that. So DISC is an assessment, a personality assessment tool that really focuses on behaviors. However, we can also understand people's communication style through this tool. So let's imagine your client is a D person, dominant. The communication style will be very direct, very straight to the point, big picture, and focus on tasks. So you need to adjust your style to that and understand that this is how they expect you to communicate. I is for influential. So influential people will communicate, they will be very bubbly, lots of ideas, they love creativity. So you can definitely tap into their creative mindset to find solutions to their challenges. They really love to be entertained. So again, try to help them be creative and find solutions. However, it might be a challenge to ensure that they do what they say they were going to do. How about the S, or the green people? People with a green profile are really caring people. They are very supportive and they love to be supported. They love stability and they don't want to be rushed. So make sure you remember that while you coach them. Create a safe space for all of them, obviously, but especially for the green person, and make sure you let them take their time to process their thoughts. How about the compliant? So compliant are people who are really focused on data. They are very careful, cautious, conscientious. They like details. They are really focused on tasks as well. So make sure that you are compliant. Obviously, we all need to be compliant as coaches, but very, very compliant, especially with those profiles. And this is the first thing you need to understand. So what someone asked me yesterday, okay, how do you know? Would you recommend to do the DISC profile to your clients? Yes, you can do that. It's always helpful, whoever you coach. But you can also guess and try to understand what is your client's style, dominant style. What is your client's profile? And adjust your style accordingly to meet them in their preferred channel of communication. All right, tip number 2, as a coach, is very important that we train ourselves to capture strong words. You have to understand your client's semantics, right? Understand the strong words they use. So I shared an example yesterday. One of my clients is talking about fighting. He wants to win. For him, work is like a battle. And I told him, I've realized that you're using a lot of words related to war, right? What does it mean? And so be curious about the words your clients use and make sure you use the exact same words. Our job as a coach is to be a mirror. And sometimes we use strong words without even realizing it. Before I move to tip number 3, what you need to pay attention to as well is all those words like I must, I should, I have to do that, I'm scared, this is impossible. Do you know what's behind those strong words? Very likely you will find limiting beliefs. It's about obligations, right? So try to understand that and try to understand what are the assumptions behind those strong assertions. Okay, next tip. Obviously, it's about asking powerful questions. Why do we ask powerful questions as coaches? Is to create new insights. And what insight will do is it will help us connect new neural pathways, and ultimately it will help us change. Let's move to tip number 4. Use metaphors. I'm in the middle of a storm at the moment. My work is really challenging. It's very turbulent. Just try to use those metaphors. Oh, what's happening in this storm? Can you describe me where you are, what you see around you? Just enter your client's world, your client's mental imagery, and help them develop that. Or I feel like I'm in the middle of the sea in a very small boat. I don't know where to go, and there's huge waves all around me. Okay, tell me, what is this boat? What can you see? Tell me a bit more. Is there any, how is the weather? Just try to understand where your clients are and play with the metaphor. It's really powerful. It will help your client extract them from their reality and create new possibilities. Tip number 5, it's about reaching the primal brain with senses. So the tip is use the senses to help your client reach their emotions and shift their perspectives. So let me explain. So it's not what I use that especially with visualization technique. So what would success look like? Well, success, I would have found a new job in 6 months. How would you feel? Talking about feeling. Well, I would feel very confident. What would you hear? Oh, I would hear people say, congratulations. And what would you see? What would be different around you? Using visual aids. So try to play with the different senses in the conversation to reach the primal brain, the emotional brain, the brain our subconscious mind as well. Okay, so this was the first part. So we covered 5 tips. Let's move to the second part. So the second part is really about how to communicate with impact when you want to share ideas, when you want to pitch, when you want to engage your audience during a workshop or a webinar. So Sam, yesterday we did a fun exercise. We did 2 groups, and the 2 groups have had to prepare a pitch for GoMasterCoach or for their own company. And then I shared some tips. So the first tip, and we tend to forget about it, although it's very obvious, if you want to communicate with impact, you have to be yourself. Don't try to be someone you think is a great communicant. Try to be yourself. Try to be aligned with your values, who you are, and be very authentic. Tip number 2 is play with the 3 V's: visual, verbal, and vocal levers. And do you know what's most important? Is it visual, what you see? Is it what you hear? Or is it the word you use? So according to Albert Mehrabian, the impact of your communication is mainly conveyed by the body language. 55% comes from your gestures, facial expression, your body language. So make sure that you really, really work on that. Then the 38% is about vocal, what you hear, the tone of the voice. This has a huge impact on your communication. And a very small percentage, it's about the words, the verbal, right? Just the impact of our words on the communication and how people will like us. And the impact of the message is only 7% coming from the words we use. So what do we need to think about when we see that? Is really how we communicate, the passion, the energy that we use that will impact our gestures and the emotion we convey. Tip number 3 is very important to find the right balance between ethos, pathos, and logos, the other way around. So ethos, pathos, logos. So what is the ethos? The ethos is, I'm an executive coach. I'm a professional certified coach by the International Coaching Federation. I'm also a Gallup Strengths coach, and I have a background in corporate finance, and I graduated from the London School of Economics. This is my ethos, meaning I'm credible. I have the credentials to do what I do. Pathos is, hey, I'm Geraldine, I'm French, I have 3 little kids, and I want to tell you how I've become a coach and what happened to my career. This is a pathos. I will appeal to your emotion. I want to connect with you. I will try to find commonalities to create this emotional connection. How about the logos? Logos is really the logic. I want to coach you. And we will start by increasing self-awareness. We will do a personality test, 360, and then we'll change habits. And what we will do, there will be action points in between each coaching sessions to get great results. I explain how I do what I do. This is logos. So if you want to convince your audience, you need to have the right balance between pathos, ethos, and logos. And do you know what's the most important to convince? That's pathos. And I like these studies. Someone studied the balance of pathos, ethos, logos in the most successful TED Talks. And they realized that the most important one was pathos, and 65% of the talk was about pathos. when they start with, when I was 6 years old and my father died and I decided to become a doctor, this part. 65% of the TED Talk is about the pathos. It will help you connect and convey your message with impact. Okay, tip number 4, it's about using storytelling, obviously. So when you use storytelling, you need to have a hero, you need to have an incident, a struggle or pain point. You need to have a villain or villain, we can call that a villain. And there's something happening and there's a real solution. Okay, so when you build your story, think about that. Think about, okay, as a new mom, you're really struggling with your babies, right? So this is the challenge of pain points. And you have lots of requests from work, at home. Those are the pain points, the villains. And then you go and you help your client resolve their issues by providing a solution. Okay, tip 5, you need to focus on the start and the finish. Okay, so how to start with impact? Start with a hook. Do you know that 70% of women can't find a job after their first baby? Just making it up. Start with a hook. Wow, that's impressive. Okay. And it's very important to end with a very strong statement as well, or activity, whatever you want. There's been some studies that show that people will remember the peak of the talk and the end of the talk. This is what people remember. So make sure that you really focus on how you will end your workshop, webinars, or just your pitch. Okay, so now, what are your key takeaways? And feel free to share in the chat, in the training chat. And I hope this was useful. Have a good day, guys.